And good evening, everyone. Warp 103 here, bringing another video. Life of a dad of 5. This time we're dealing with child number 4, Jaden Ray Edwards, and he has a condition called Dysarthria. Yeah, try to say that a couple of times fast, you won't be able to do it. Of course, doctors don't make things easy. They have, really difficult names for standard stuff. So, yeah, it's a condition basically dealing with speech. He doesn't speak as well as everybody else does, and everything else of that. So yeah, it's a thing. Sorry, it's going back into the thing. So let me explain my son. Now you've already known about my other son, which is the hyperactive knucklehead. This son here is quite a bit different. He is, well, how do I put it mildly? Spider-Man. Or Spooderman, as my daughter says. So that okay, if you was able to see him online, or if you're looking to in Twitch right now or on YouTube, you're seeing a bubbly child that has dimples on both sides of his face and everything else. That his hairline is way back compared to mine and even his mom's and everything else. That, but he looks exactly like my son did, and like me, just the hairline's different. But he's happy all the time. He rarely gets crossed. It can happen every now and then, but he came out being happy. He came out being joyful. He's a child that's like, yay! You always seen a smile on his face, just like with my other daughter, Shug, that you always seen a smile on her face, except for when you get her angry. Jaden is hard to get angry, and I mean extremely hard to get angry. Can he get angry? Oh yes, everybody in the world can, but he's not like that. He's more of, it's joy. It's fine. It's fine. Even when he's tired, cranky, he doesn't want to do stuff, so that he's always joyful. So as you see for the picture right here, so that you notice that he has upper and lower teeth. Again, if you can't see the picture, I'm sorry. As a baby, it's like that. He started out with, full set of teeth like everybody else in the world for that. No teeth pops and everything else for that. But he was always my dangerous child. He was the one that, if you weren't watching him every minute of the day, now this is not an ADD type thing, but he was more likely to climb on something. He's a child that, even as a baby, when he first started to walk, okay, he go to the refrigerator when he wants something to drink. He didn't wait for anybody else. He crawls inside the refrigerator and crawls up my shelves and everything else of that to reach whatever he needs to reach. So, you have to try to put things on the bottom so he can reach it easily, or, well, it's going to be Spider-Man. Okay. So this always happened. He climbs up in chairs, he climbed up shelves, he climbed up all different types of things. The problem is he climbed up on something that was too high, he fell, and basically he broke out his top teeth. So now, as a kid, when you break your teeth and everything else, you don't get another set. You don't get the new things and anything else that your teeth are broken. And and kids, we took him to the dentist and everything else. Okay, what can we do? Nothing. What do you mean by nothing? He's way too young to get any dentures and everything else that. The only thing you can do is leave the teeth that he has inside of there, as long as it's not causing him pain, until a point where we'll have to remove them later on. So basically every 6 months we'd have to keep going to the dentist to keep, actually it was every 4 months, keep checking on his teeth until they finally got to the point that, okay, we have to remove them. So they removed his top 4 teeth when he had teeth, so that, and he didn't get teeth until his adult teeth came in. That caused a major problem. Now, most people don't understand this and everything else, that when you lose your teeth, you when you talk, you press your tongue against your teeth to form all of your valves and all of your sounds, your S's, your C's, and things like that, and most of your letter sounds. When you do not have those teeth in place, your tongue does not learn, from an early age what it's supposed to do. So with them not being there, literally he can speak. Again, us being as a parent, we understood what he said. I understood, the wife understood. Siblings, again, it took a minute, but again, all I grew up with him understood what he said. But most people couldn't understand him. And as a kid, that could be super frustrating to say the same words 4, 5, 6 times until they understand what you said. Okay. So that's a little bit of frustration that sets in right from the beginning. You really don't want that for that. But it is what it is. So from an early age, it's like that, he had teeth problems just from cracking the teeth. And he also has his mother's dental bone structure things for that. So he's also the one that even though we're taking him in to see an oral person all the time, we brushed his teeth and everything else, so that he was always the first one to get, major cavities. So literally we had to take him at a young age, take him all the way to Orlando to an oral surgeon for them to remove other teeth, put spacers in. So when his adult teeth come in, they wouldn't be crowding each other and basically it would look like a bloody mess. So from a young age, he's been in the doctor's office a lot for his teeth problems. Okay. Now, that caused other issues as well. Okay. Now, another issue that it caused is he started developing self-consciousness. Now, if you see a picture of him right now, he would keep his mouth, he would hide his front teeth and everything else like that and try to keep it closed, but that causes you to use, you're supposed to breathe a certain way when you talk and everything else like that. So that caused him to try to breathe in from his nose most of the time. It made him nasally. So being nasally and everything else like that, he was getting more and more susceptible to getting colds and allergies and everything else like that. Now, out of all of my children, and I've already talked about Jaslyn's for that, where she had the high fevers and everything else of that, we had to throw in the cold showers. She's never had to stay in the hospital overnight for, being sick. He was the first child of Lily we had to call an ambulance for. Sorry, we took him to, let me back up. We took him to the hospital, because we know the symptoms of, my wife has asthma, my daughter has asthma, but he doesn't have asthma. But he got cold. You can see his chest was he was having trouble breathing. And if you look on your side where your ribs is, you can actually see when he breathed, it would suck in right there. So, okay, no, this is wrong. So we take him to the hospital. Now we take him to Omaha Memorial Hospital, which is it's a major regional hospital in Daytona Beach, but they didn't do kids with major trauma like this, so he was my first child to actually have an ambulance ride. So okay, well, we don't have the facilities here to make sure, because he was getting worse, this can turn into something super major, super fast. We need to take him to another hospital. Okay, so first child with the ambulance ride from Ormond Beach to Halifax. Now, I hate the Halifax hospital with a passion, because that's the hospital that discharged my mother and everything else, and she died because of it. So, but that's here or there. So it was one of those things that, okay, first child in the hospital, not for a day, he was in the hospital for a week. Literally, I'm in the hospital with them. It's like that, I'm basically living there. I didn't go home and everything else like that, because the wife would take care of the rest of the kids and everything else like that. She would bring the other kids by to check on him. I would go home for, a little while to shower. I mean, even though they had shower facilities there, but still, you go home for the shower and come right back. Food was being brought in for us and everything else like that. So I spent a whole week in a hospital with a child that really didn't want to be in the hospital. And then when he started to feel better, even though the doctors said, okay, it's like the third day, well, he's starting to feel better, he's starting to climb the walls because he's like, okay, I really don't want to be here. I want to be anywhere else but here. Climbing on things and everything else. So you basically say, okay, we gotta get an outlet for him to do stuff. So took him on the other side down. Fortunately, they just redid the hospital, so they had a wing for kids to play, an actual big activity place section for them to be in. So of course he'd been there and everything else to the end. He got better, but after that point they diagnosed him with very bad allergies, but also with it affected his lungs a bit because of how bad it got. So when he gets a cold, he's more susceptible to asthma and everything else to that. Now, of course, they don't want us to diagnose him as being asthma for that, but of course they can say, okay, well, he will be labeled as an asthmatic, even though the symptoms will never present themselves unless he is under, severe stress and everything else to that. So basically not running, he can run around with the best and everything else to that, that's when we'll do it. But if he's getting a cold and everything else to that, it can turn into an issue. But at that point we also learned that he has a hole in his heart. Now we knew this from when he was a baby and everything else, because of course the doctors tell you these things for that, but it was never a concern until again this happened, because it was like, okay, well, that exacerbated the condition, because again, when you have a heart problem, even though it was a minor issue, it's minor in the scheme of things. He's not going to die from a heart attack or anything like that. But it's one of the things once every 3 years we have to go in, for them to do an echocardiogram and EKG and all the rest of that stuff to check on his heart to see if the hole's getting bigger, smaller, everything is like that. So he has a heart condition as well, but you would never know it by, again, how active that he is. Now this boy is slim. He likes to run. He's always on the move. Now again, he doesn't have ADHD, anything else to that. He has an attention span. He can sit still when he needs to do what he needs to do. He doesn't have ADHD or ADD, so none of those things, but he's a boy. A typical boy that actually is very active. But you have to watch him a bit more. Now, I tend to not watch him that hard because I don't want him to be self-conscious. Like, okay, well, I gotta sit here and do nothing. No, I want you to be a kid. I want you to run around, do whatever you need to do, but you have to be just a little bit self-conscious about what, if you start to feel bad and you start to feel run down, come back home, relax, tell us what's going on, sit down and rest, because plenty of times you can see him, he's running at full tilt and his body's starting to slow down just a bit. I'm like, okay, boy, sit your butt down. Just sit down. But Daddy, I still sit down. Now I'm not telling him why I sit down, because I can see his breathing, it's getting a little bit labored and everything else like that. Now, most people would rush for the inhaler, but you can tell by the way that he's breathing that it's not an asthmatic condition, but it can go to that if he doesn't stop, if he doesn't slow down. So you have to monitor these things, and you got to teach him how to monitor himself. So you have a son that has my son has a heart condition. He has a lung condition now because of getting very sick, pneumonia when he's younger, because again, once you get pneumonia, you tend to be susceptible to getting pneumonia again and again, because again, it affects your lungs, which sucks. But I don't ever want him to feel that, okay, I can't do everything else like that. He can do it. So he has a heart problem. I'm gonna call it asthmatic, even though it's a special case. And he also has a speech problem. Now, he goes to speech therapy, and that's a proposition that you can't get the speech teachers that you want. Now, for the first When he was able to get speech, which was around 6 years old. For the first 3 years, he had an epic speech teacher. She was the chief of the speech department, so she was a joy to work with and everything else that. So it made it easy for Jaden to say, okay, I like this teacher, and he would put in the work, to get what he needs to do and everything else that, so he can speak correctly and everything else of that. And of course, since he has to speak in class, in brick and mortar school, they didn't know what to do with him. They didn't have the accommodations. Again, you're 6 years old, you're in kindergarten and first grade, to actually understand. So when, calling Jaden, and they ask him a question, and he has to say the same thing over and over again, and then he's frustrated. He doesn't want to talk to the teacher anymore because they've already answered the question. He's already given the correct answer, but they didn't understand the correct answer. So he has to sit there and say it again and again and again. Mega frustrating for a kid, even though he was happy then, and but then he would get frustrated, not mad, but frustrated that people don't understand him. You also had other kids, again, kids being kids, that want to, bully him and everything else of that. Now, just because he's a happy kid, just because he's a kid that gets angry, yeah, you couldn't bully him. He didn't, he would basically pay you absolutely no mind. Like, okay, if you want to be a moron, you want to be that kid, okay, be that kid. The problem is you had other kids that didn't, would stick up for Jaden because, again, he's the nicest kid in the world and everything else. So again, since we were already homeschool, we already gotten that mindset that we were going to homeschool our kids for that. It made it easier just to put them in homeschool and everything else. Now, while doing homeschool, again, he had special teachers, and even with his regular teachers, again, all of this stuff is online. All the stuff you have to go in class, just like I'm using my webcam right now. He has a microphone set up just like I'm using right now to sit there and talk to his teachers on a daily basis, when he has to do classes and everything else like that, and talk to other students. Now, since the teachers know that he had a speech problem, we got a special thing called a 504 plan for him. It's an IEP. It's an individual education program for him that specifies that, okay, you got to give him extra time. You have to, you make accommodations for him so that way when he reads to you, he can't read it the way a normal kid would read it, because you're not going to understand it. If he reads at his maximum speed, the clarity goes down. Even though he is saying everything correctly in his mind, if you're listening hard enough, you can hear it. But that doesn't work. So you literally have to say, okay, no, slow down, speak slowly and clearly so I can understand you. But the problem is, schools usually go by a metric system that you have to say or read so many words in a minute. So to get around that, again, his individual learning plan says, okay, he has double that amount of time, so that way he can slow down and read this thing correctly. And then once they do the calculation, the weight to it and everything else, so that you will see that he comes out being smarter than most kids. He has less problems reading than most other kids. It's just you understanding what he said is different. So you have that, There's a lot of things that you have to actually sit there and go through to deal with a person that has this. Now, most people can understand if you have slurred speech, dyslexia and everything else that. So we're going to go into right now describing what this condition is, and if your kid has the same thing. Now on the screen right now, I'm going to click the button so you can hear what it exactly sounds like, just in case I'm not saying it correctly, because sometimes I don't.
Dysarthria.
That's what the condition he has, and again, I pronounce it badly because I do. Okay, now, to most people, it would present itself as if the person is inebriated, like they're drunk. Because you know how drunk people sound, so you have an idea what he would sound like. Think of any person that's, drunk and they talking to you, and the speech sounds like it's running together, or marbles in his mouth. That's what it sounds like. Now, again, this can be caused by different things: extreme fatigue, intoxication, reading difficulties out loud, oral anesthesia, meaning that something in the back of your throat is not moving correctly, or lack of teeth. Now, his case was because of lack of teeth. But now, even though he is at the point where he has a full set of teeth in, you still got to learn the process. It's just like a person that, hearing for the first time. You have to sit there and they have to learn everything and pronounce everything all over again, because the way you were doing it before and the way you're doing it now, your tongue is not used to rolling or moving the way it needs to for you to get this fixed. So how do you treat this? Okay, the number one thing is you have to slow down your speech. Again, we already discussed this. That's the reason why he has extra time, because literally he has to say it slower so you can understand what he's saying. Then the other thing is he has to use more breath sounds, basically speak louder, which again, when he's tired in the morning time, when he wake up for classes, that can cause a real problem for the teacher. But throughout the day, after he's awake, it gets stronger. Making your mouth muscles stronger. Now again, he has a speech therapist. They go over saying certain words, and that process, just for that certain sounds, they go over for a week. So this is a long process. You would figure, okay, well, at least he got his teeth in now. Within a couple of weeks, he should. No, it's muscle memory. So literally, you have to go over each letter sound individually. Until you like your S's. Your S's roll from the bridge of your teeth and everything else like that, and from the back of your mouth. You have to learn this. He had to learn it all over again, but he has to use like suck in the breath, and then say it. I gotta call myself. So that say what when you need to say it. Making your muscles stronger. Again, this is another thing of the repetitive thing. You literally have to say the same sound over again and say shh, 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 or whatever the sound is until you get that sound down. And then from there, you have to put that sound with words, and then they practice certain words to make it, the muscles in your mouth and on the tongue roll the way it's supposed to be, but hopefully you haven't forgotten the tones before. So you have to practice with speech therapists, and then you have to practice this throughout the day with speech homework to make sure that you have this stuff down. Again, you have to know how to move your lips and your tongue more. So to compensate, even though his teeth are back, but he still has to, do the. I wish I could. Some of you are looking on screen. You have to say, it's like you're learning to kiss. You get prime example back in the older days, so that you had the doll things and you would practice kissing with the doll. I guess I'm that old, or things like that. That's what you would have to do. You have to sit there with no doll, so that practice in the mirror or practice on a camera so you can see your lips move a certain way. Yes, it sounds stupid, but because again, for everybody else, this is normal. For him, it's a struggle. This is something you have to deal with. And then you have to clearly say the words in sentences. Now, again, you get other ways to communicate, like gestures, writing, and using computers. But, speech is a vital thing you got to have for most things. Talk to teachers, especially in the virtual school. So communication is always key. So you have to practice this stuff a lot. So, is it permanent? It depends on what it's caused by. Now, in his case here, since it was from lack of not having teeth, it's a training tool that he has to teach his brain, commute the pathways so his tongue will be in the right place at the right time to do this. So in his case, it's temporary, but it's a long-term temporary. It's like, again, a person that got into an accident, lost your legs, and they said, okay, the doctor's telling you it's gonna take you many years to learn how to re-walk again. You can do it. It's going to be painful. You're gonna make a lot of missteps on the way, but you'll get there. That's what he's going through. So, it's something that I wish that he wouldn't have to go through, But as always say, all things have a time and all things have a place. So sometimes you will be going through stuff that you don't want to go through. This is stuff that hopefully went before he becomes an older adult. He'll be at the point where he doesn't need it as much. Now his speech is getting much clearer. If you're looking at a picture right now, again, you see it, his teeth have come in. It's much easier for him to speak now than it was even just a couple of years ago. But this is something that's still ongoing that he'll have to always think about. Something that he can't relax, again, once you get into high school and everything else, it's not going to be something like the girls are not going to, oh, he's fun. Well, even if he spoke funny, it's like that, he's still the, brightest, cheerfulest person in the world. So they'll be like, no, whatever. They'll overlook it. He has that gift of that smile that's like, the smile that goes from ear to ear with the dimples that everybody, oh, you got dimples. Oh, let me, he's that boy. Still a daredevil, still, and then that's the other thing we try to get him to. Okay, please, 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 don't climb on everything. Don't try to jump, from this high place. Right now, unfortunately, his sister, and again, he plays tag, but they get along like cats and dogs, but they're loving in the world. His older sister, she sits on the top of the truck. Now the truck is, a truck. It's a half ton. So, and it's a Dodge Ram. So you see, and it has a camper top on it. So they're sitting on top of the camper top. So for her, the distance to the ground is not that much. For him, it's a little bit of a distance, and he's climbing up there, jumping off. I'm like, oh God, please be careful. We don't want you to lose your teeth, and then from there, because you can't get another set. Well, you can. You're old enough to get dentures down and everything else like that, but that's expensive. But we don't want you to lose your teeth. We don't want you to go through that headache and then regress on your speech thing and everything else like that. So you got to try to rein in the child so he doesn't do crazy stuff. But again, you can't just say don't do crazy stuff because he's a child. The catch-22 comes in. So that's Mr. Ray, and that's we named him. Again, if you have a person that has a speech problem, or if you know somebody that has problems with their speech, don't tease them, don't make fun of them, because that condition can make them, self-conscious. People ridicule other people for all types of things for no good reason at all. Now, unfortunately for my son, he doesn't. He would ignore you because it's like, okay, if you don't like how I speak, tough for you, no problem. Now, we still monitor his heart condition. Again, this year is actually the beginning of the year. It's time for him to go in to get his heart checked and everything else of that. So we basically take him to Easter seals so that for them to do a full workup of his heart and everything else of that. It's a little scary for him because, even though he's still, he takes it as a trooper and everything else of that, but it's still scary for the attach all the leads all over your body and everything else of that, and then you got to do certain activities to make sure that the heart is not getting worse. And then from there, they got to do the echocardiogram to look inside to see, is that valve moving? Is everything where it's supposed to be? Is it closing up? Is it getting larger? Because again, if it starts to get large and everything else, that's a completely other concern that you have to look at. Because then from there, he'll be limited on the sports he can do and everything else. Because of course, if any heart condition, it exacerbates your being able to breathe. And if you can't breathe, you can't run. If you can't, that would mess up his whole world. So we'll come back to this in January about his heart, just to see if it's good, bad, or all the ugliness for that. And we're going to do a whole special on the heart, because since there's not a lot of boys in my family, so that, I found out so that heart, blood pressure, high blood pressure, things like that, running in our family. So that's another thing he's going to look at. So we're going to go into a future episode of what you do when you have a heart condition. How do you live? How do you get along? What I'm going to tell you the pills I have to take. I'm going to tell you the pills my wife has to take, because her heart condition is actually the opposite. Hers is, she has her blood pressure is high as hell, but also her heart rate is extraordinarily high. Most of the time it's over 100, which is bad, because you only have a limited number of beats in your lifetime. So she has to take medication to actually lower her heartbeat. Ray, for right now, thank goodness and thank the Lord, he has to take nothing for his heart. Everything on that end, again, until we know something different, is fine. He has to take an allergy medication once a night, that way there, so that he doesn't wake up with his allergies going crazy. Again, the allergies go crazy. That makes him sick. When it makes him sick, he can get complications with pneumonia. We don't want that. So during the summertime, it's like that. The doctors recommend it like that he take an allergy pill. It's prescribed for him, so that, or we can take the over-counter ones for the 24-hour one, which we usually do. We do the 24-hour one because it lasts as long as than the ones that prescribed by the doctor. They only last like 4 to 12 hours, and then you got to take another one. And for a kid to remember to take medicine, no. So we get the one that lasts him the whole day, and he has, of course, we do have a nebulizer in here if he needs one. Basically the spray if he needs, but he hasn't had to use that in 5 years. It's been so long, I don't even remember. It's been a long time. Basically, I think the last time I had to use it like a year or two after he got out of the hospital, because he got a bad cold, but it wasn't bad enough to need him to go to the hospital. But that's it. That's Ray. That's in a nutshell. Tall. He's going to be tall, hopefully, because he's outpacing most of the other kids in his class in height-wise, even though that can stop later on. Pure joy to be around, lovely to be around. Spider-Man syndrome, unfortunately, he likes to climb, do everything, typical boy. He loves computers and everything and stuff, but he out of the two, the computers go outside, whereas my other son mostly wants to stay on the computer. Ray, he outside and everything else, so that he goes out and runs outside, does what he needs, come back and play computers, then run back outside again, because he loves to jump around. Well, that's all we have for my son. Hopefully you have some interesting infos. If you have any information, or you need any information about this condition and everything else for that, or if you know someone that might fall in these conditions for that, we can give you a little bit of information. So that, just drop on a line in the comments. So that we'll be glad to give you the information. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook. Of course, this is on the podcast. And of course, we are also on Twitch. That's where we're recording on right now. So that just stop by and everything else. So that either one of the media, so just let us know. So that if you're on YouTube, and so that hit the likes, share, and subscribe. But all these things, if you found it interesting, found something that it helped you in any type of way, or just gave you information about something that you need, share it. Other people might find it interesting too. Well, this is Warp 3, Life of Dad, saying thank you guys for listening to me. Thank you guys for watching, if you're watching on, again, Twitch or YouTube. But for now, we're going to say good night, have fun, and bless.